Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome back to the Top Tier Championship. We are back once again for the Top Tier with some of the best community teams in PC esports battle it out for the title. Last time out, we saw a 1-2 for TF10 starting their season off strongly. We'll see if they can continue that form here this evening with Chris Biedzinski and Marcel Paps. I think we are missing one of the Haas cars tonight for BRC. Unfortunately, only one car for them this evening. And then for the Red Bull outfit of, if I can just quickly remember who is in the Red Bull. It's the PR team. So PR at the minute's only one driver. Christoph Godor hasn't joined the lobby. So it is just only a couple of drivers missing out this evening. So 18 cars on the grid currently. And we'll see who can come out on top here this evening. And the first driver to be setting a lap time will be Rene Clean for GSR, who had a very good evening last time out. I think they got a 6th place finish and a 9th place finish, with Rene actually being one of those drivers in the team. And he had no audio for a majority of that race, so a superb drive from him. As now heading down into turn 2 with Rene. He's kept it clean through the first corner. So then head through the right hander of turn 3, then back up the hill into turn 4. First sector split coming up for Rene Clean. So 26.8 from the kick Sauber. Of course, could be purple so far. The first driver to be setting a lap time in this session. And we are now heading into the first chicane on the circuit of 6 and 7. Oh, maybe a little bit of too much curb through 8, setting the car into a little bit of a half spin, a bit too much rotation than he would have been liking as he now heads through turn 11. Over the middle sector split at 53.1. Not the strongest middle sectors we saw there from Rene Clean. Certainly some time still left in this lap, but it is a banker lap, of course, as we're now heading into the final corner. We'll see what Rene Clean can do as he comes up to the line. I will then quickly switch over to Chris Biedzinski, see if he can beat it. So for the kick Sauber, it's a 14.7 as the current benchmark. Biedzinski now up to the line. What can he do? And he beats it by a 1/10 of a second. Biedzinski up onto that provisional pole spot. Manuel goes to the top of the times, being Collier up to the top for Thomas Enger Sim. So lovely lap time there from Biancola to move himself 2 temps clear of Biedzinski there. So for Thomas Enger, trying to capitalise on what was a poor and pick up their form from a poor weekend in Hungary. As we now see the fake TB go up to 6th. Christoph for AMS now up into that 5th spot. Quite unlucky for him, I think it was last week, where he climbed his way up the order and unfortunately came to blows with some other drivers. No, sorry, that was Raxi for AMS. But in the championship standings, you won't be able to see them on the screen. I've not actually set them up just yet. But it is TF10 leading the way, 19 points clear of Thomas Enger. They're on 55 points and 36 respectively. Then 28 points further back. News coming in that Christoph Godor will be coming in mid-session, so he'll be joining us. But quickly back to the standings. Sorry, I was quickly just sorting something out within the stream. And Tartum are then on 28 points and 27 points off TF10. Then it's GSR in 4th, IRT 5th, 6th place PEC, 7th is AERT with 3 points, 2 points go to AMS, and then 1 point with PR. And so far, not scoring a point this season are BRC, unfortunate for them. And having only one car in the field does make their chances that little bit worse. Coming into this evening's affair. So, as some of the first runs have just been completed, we still have some more drivers coming out onto the road now. Lucas Baisner now goes to the top of the times, just pipping his teammate by 0.2 of a second. So, brilliant lap time there from Baisner. Bila Pip is coming up to the line for IRT. Where can he go as he crosses the line? 7th fastest for the Williams. Not a shabby lap from him, as he is only a 10th slower than Carl Vergeese. So, if he improves by a 10th, he could certainly see himself, well, 10th and a half, should I say, he can certainly see himself move up into that top 3. So I love the lap time from the IRT man, as we see more drivers starting to come out for either their first or their second runs of the session. Marcel Paps is starting his next attempt. He validated the previous one or made a mistake on it, I think, and is now going once more into 6 and 7. Sorry, nicely done through there. Maybe a little bit skittish on the rear end as you then head through the right-hander of 9. Turn 10 is just focusing on your entry into turn 11. Just keep it tight to that left-hand side before flicking it over to that right-hand apex curb. 52.9 in that first sector. About a 10th up, about 2/10 up, sorry, on what we saw Rene Clean do in that middle sector. So he should potentially be up with the likes of Carl Vergeese and Manuel Biancola. So as we now head into the final corner, we'll see what Paps is able to do for TF10, who's starting strong this season, and he goes 4th fastest, just slotting in behind Vergeese and in front of his teammate Bierzinski. So nice lap time there from the Mercedes man, as more drivers now start to see themselves pile out of the pit lane for either what will be their first timed lap on the board or gonna be their second runs. So another driver on a lap is Rene Clean once more. Up by 25 thousandths in the first sector. Could be a good rate of improvement as well, because we know he made a mistake in this middle sector, so could see himself jump to around about where his teammate is, Linus Kramer. Oh, a little bit close with track limits through turn 9. That certainly could have been invalidated if it was just a millimetre more across the middle sector. But yes, he's now up by a 10th of a second, so he's going to be battling in that top from 5th place down to 8th range at this current stage of affairs, as he now heads through the penultimate corner and heading up into the final one. So for Rene Clean, an agonising wait to get back on the power through the final corner, to get back down that main straight and put full blast to the line. DRS open, where does he go? He goes 5th fastest, just slotting in behind Marcel Paps and in between the two TF10 boys. So not a bad lap time there from Rene Clean, as he is up to 5th place now here in qualifying from that second run of the session. Liam Bowman set 15.1 on his lap time. Not the greatest of laps for the PR driver, as we'll see as he tries to get a grip hold of this session. Christoph is up by half a second in that middle sector. So what can the AMS driver do for Ferrari? Comes across the line. He does improve by half a second, but it's still only 14th fastest. That's Diego Ferreira up into 11th. Lovely lap time from him, a 14.707. Jamie Watts for AERT has just started his next attempt. Don't think he's the furthest round the circuit though, so we'll go on board of Jay Kennedy, currently in 8th place, and see what he can do in that 1 minute 14.6 range. There's 5 drivers within that window now. So for Kennedy, he's up by only 17 thousandths of a second, so he'll stay in those 0.6s, and if he has a little bit of a scruffy last sector, will not be able to improve at all. So he'll need a monstrous final part of the lap if he wants to see himself out of those 0.6s, as he now heads into the final corner, down to 4th gear, slowly bring that power back on as the rear end tries to dance underneath you. DRS open once more, across the line he goes. He does have a scruffy final sector and wasn't able to improve there, unfortunately, for the Williams driver. quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to try and get Christoph Godor into the session. Actually, I can't add EA while in the lobby. So we'll just wait for confirmation on Christoph Godor. See if he can get in the lobby, because of course can't be added through EAID when we are in the lobby. I will have to wait until potentially in between sessions to get him in. Luca Bonacossa is now on a lap. He's actually invalidated his attempt, so will stay 13th fastest for now. But if he improved by a couple tenths of a second, he'll see himself up into that top 6. So shows how close this lobby really is. Jamie Watts not able to find an improvement. As Biedzinski now goes to the top of the times. A brilliant lap time from the TF10 driver. Just pips Lucas Baisner, and Paps now into third as well. Only a thousandth off the Tomasenko Sim driver. So for Biedzinski and Paps, in this midpoint of the session, 2 brilliant lap times at this stage. And they have really brought that fight to Tomasenko Sim in this qualifying and this season so far. Of course, leading their way in the championship of the TF10 boys. And now they could see themselves shoot a little bit further away from Tomasenko if they can keep the result like this. I think B. Lupip has just gone faster. Yes, he has by nearly 2 tenths of a second. He now goes up into 6th place. And for the Williams man and for IRT, he's just off the back of Zetany for PC. So, as we are getting ready for the final runs of this quali session, we'll see what we're going to be able to do with these drivers. What are we going to be able to see from these drivers is going to be the main question. How is everything going to play out? So, Manuel Biancola has gone out onto the circuit first for Tomasenko Sim and Lucas Baisner as well. So the 2 Tomasenko boys have gone out earlier than anybody else for these final runs to try and get them underway as quickly as they possibly can and give themselves enough time in case they do invalidate to go again. Of course, as we saw from Biedzinski, who did his lap time on 2-lap old tyres, you can invalidate and keep some good temperature and some good pace in the car. As actually Godor has just added me, ladies and gentlemen. So just before we get Manuel's run underway, I'll quickly get him into the lobby. There we go, an invite has been sent to Mr. Godot. So for PR, they'll have both drivers in the lobby. And for Manuel Biancola, we'll see what he is going to be able to try and do. For Thomas Enger Sim to take them to the top of the times, he needs to find a tenth of a second to do so. So here we are then, heading down into turn 1. It's going to be late to the brakes. He might have some traffic to contend with potentially, but look how aggressive he was with the turning to that first corner. DRS then open as we head down into turn 2. Late on the brakes once more, down to third gear, then slowly bring that power back on, back as you head through turn 4 and up the hill. Down to turn 3 and up the hill into turn 4 in the first sector split. So is he up or is he down? He's up by just under half a tenth of a second. Carry on this rate of improvement. He might just find the time he needs to snatch that pole position away from Biedzinski and TF10. So as he now heads into the 6 and 7 chicane, Paps has got a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. Unfortunately for him, I don't know if he has illegally blocked someone or that's the glitch in the game. Biancola now heading through into the middle sector split. What are we going to see from him? He's up by 0.08 of a second, so he's getting closer to snatching that away from Chris Biedzinski. As now heading into the penultimate corner now for the Aston Martin. As you can see, there's a car just in front of him, getting ready to prepare a lap and just getting out of the way nicely. That's going to distract, and there could be some contact there. I think that was Carl Vergees. That was super close to contact, but Manuel Biancola still snatches pole position away. Despite all that, that will certainly go to the stewards anyway, because that was very dramatic and nearly very costly for Thomas Enger. Lucas Basler aborted his attempts. And he'll be going again now. But for Manuel Biancola, that was very close times, very nervy times. I think it was with Vergees. It's the furthest round of the two McLarens, yes. So it would have been him. And he's aborted his lap already before it's even begun. What about Biedzinski? As he's just starting his attempt. There's a Haas going to be coming up to the line. So let's quickly switch over to Luca Bonacossa as he now heads through the penultimate corner. He's up by 0.2 in that middle sector, so seeing himself into the 0.5 could see the PC driver up into the top 10. DRS open as he heads to the line. Can he break into that top 10? Yes, he can. Breaks into the top 5, in fact. A beautiful lap time from Luca to see himself and BRC into the top 5. And could they score points for the first time this season as Jay Kennedy then shoots himself up into 5th place. Kramer now into 6th. There's a Red Bull coming to the line. That could be Liam Bowman up to the line as we speak. No, it was actually one of the V-Carbs coming into pit lane. Axel only good enough for 14th. Let's see what Marcel Paps and Biedzinski are doing. Paps the furthest round of the two. So as he heads through the penultimate corner now, apparently purple in that middle sector. And we're going to see if he can snatch it away from Biancola. But of course, with that 5-place grid penalty, we could potentially have a lobby restart, or he will lose that pole position. Paps to the line. Can he snatch it away? Yes, he can. But then can his teammate go even quicker? No! Biedzinski just misses out. And it is Marcel Paps. Unless Zettany can do anything on his next attempt. No, he's invalidated, I'm afraid. He misses out and stays 8th fastest. But for Marcel Paps and for TF10, once again, delight here in the top tier as Paps takes that pole position from Manuel Biancola. Then it is Chris Biedzinski, Lucas Basler in 4th. It's TF10, Thomas Enger taking up those top 4 spots. Lovely stuff from both teams as they cement themselves as the best of the field. And I think we might be having a lobby restart for Marcel Papst's incident causing that grid penalty. It was an unfair one. It was a car on an outlap behind it was his teammate Biedzinski. And I think we are going to have a lobby restart. But it's Marcel Paps from on pole from Biancola, Chris Biedzinski, Lucas Basner, Jay Kennedy, Linus Kramer, Luca Bonacossa, Zettany, Rene Clean, Gabriele Amato, Bila Pip, Carl Vergees, Diego Ferreira, Axel. And then we see quickly down at the end, Christoph, Liam Bowman and co. It was Christoph, Liam Bowman, and then the two ART boys of the Fake TB, and also James Watts. So I think as we're going into this lobby restart, I shall well, I say lobby restart, there is still no confirmation, but I shall put us on and be right back till we find out more. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that long delay for the lobby restart. There was just a few issues with drivers getting into the lobby and some drivers leaving just as we're about to start and having to redo the whole process again. But we are here now for this evening's action, and it should be an eventful race indeed. Here at the Hungaro ring, we shall have quite a race to talk about. I think we've got 35 laps of racing action ahead of us this evening. And of course, this is round 2 of a 15 round long season where we head to Saudi Arabia, then over to Kota before a trip to Singapore. Then, of course, the week break, the transfer week at Singapore and Spain. So it'll be a week off then on the 12th to the 24th. And then we head to Silverstone forwards and then Silverstone backwards for round 7 and 8. China for round 9. Canada for round 10 before another break week for another lot of transfers for drivers to come in before we head to Brazil, Japan, Vegas, Monza and Abu Dhabi. And that will be your season ahead of us. So, as the drivers now prepare for the 5 red lights, a long race to go. Our driver's going to go for a 2-stop or 1-stop. That is going to be the question here this evening. And it certainly will be an eventful one. Marcel Paps will get us underway from the pole spot, followed by Manuel Biancola in second. Then it is Chris Biedzinski and Lucas Baisner occupying row 2. But here we are then, here in Hungary. 5 red lights, and we're underway for the Hungarian Grand Prix. It seems a good start from Marcel Paps, but Biancola is going to be side by side as they head down into the first corner. The Mercedes trying to defend here from the Aston Martin. Same could be said as well from Baisner. On Biedzinski is the 2 Thomas Engersin boys. Can they both get a move done in unison as they try and move themselves further up the order? Manuel gets the move done on Paps. Will Baisner get the move done on Biedzinski? No, it seems that the TF10 driver just going to be holding firm against Baisner as we head through turn 3 now, but it is Thomas Enger, TF10, Thomas Enger, as there's someone spinning in the background. There's Be Le Pip heading down the order with Diego Ferreira now moving himself up in front of Carl Vergees, but Manuel Biancola, the dream, gets away from second place on the grid, able to get past Marcel Paps, and now the drivers will settle into a rhythm. Will Paps be able to fight back against the Aston Martin, or will we see Manuel just start to break away? Of course, Dirty is huge on this game. Liam Bowman, unfortunately, is quite a way behind. I think he's picked up some damage, potentially was in that incident with Be Le Pip, and you can see missing that right front end plate, unfortunately for PR, as Le Pip is able to carry on all in one piece as well. But at the front of the field, it is Manuel Biancola, who is now leading the way from Marcel Paps. And it was a dream getaway for the Aston Martin. Are we going to see anybody go for the move down into turn 1? Is everyone just going to stay firm? It seems no one's really close enough to go for that attacking motion, unless we see potentially James Watts, at the back go for a move on Christoph Godor. And unfortunately, no move being made, and Liam Bowman has come into pit lane once more. Not once more, sorry, for the first time in this race, and unfortunately has retired on the opening tour. Really, really unfortunate for Liam Bowman. His race just didn't get underway at all, and saw himself, unfortunately, out of this race on the opening hurdle. So, as James Watts we're on board with is trying to hunt down Christoph Godor. The gap at the front of the field is now 0.7 of a second. So Manuel Biancola is doing well to eke that gap out, because of course Dirty Yes, the front of the Marcel Paps car is going to be sliding around. It's just going to be constantly trying to chase that front end to get it gripped up and get into the corner. The front end just needs to start biting, and that's the issue when you're stuck in this Dirty. As you can see, the possible race strategies for this evening, we have the 1-stop or the 2-stop, a medium hard, or a medium hard from these drivers. Talking about that, let's see what the drivers are on this evening. what position, what tyres everybody is on. Everybody's on the mediums. It's set, actually, for Biancola. So he got a brilliant start on that hard compounded tyre. So a brilliant getaway then it must have been from the Thomas Enger sim driver. And Marcel Paps has got a lot of work to do, because this now puts Biancola in a really good position in this race. The only driver on the hards, and is looking to soldier on forwards to see what he can do as you now head into the 6 and 7 chicane. A little bit squabbly out of there, just unfortunately taking a bit too much curb for Manuel. Saw the car dancing across the road, but he's able to hold on to that 7/10 advantage. That little bit further back, Zettany is all over the back of Jay Kennedy. There's also Linus Kramer all over the back of Lucas Basner. He's dropped off a little bit over the course of this previous lap, but he was really close. Just a lap ago was the GSR driver to the back of the Thomas Enger sim Aston Martin. And here for Zettany for PEC in that Alpine is looking to try and get past Jay Kennedy, as DRS, of course, will be used down this main straight. There's only 2 DRS zones on this circuit, only 1 detection point for both of them. That's on the entrance to the final corner as Zettany looks for the move. He darts to the inside line. His teammate Diego is also looking for one on Gabriele Amato, but unfortunately is not able to get that move done for either of the Alpines, as they seem the raciest of the bunch thus far. And for Zettany, he's trying to move himself up into that top 6 as we now head through the left of turn 4 before slowly slamming on those brakes to get the car slowed down for turn 5. And then back on the power once more. Zettany trying everything he can to get this move done. Both the GSR boys actually do look quite racy, as Rene Clean sticking pretty close to the back of Luca Bonacossa. Of course, the man currently 8th place for BRC is looking to try and take BRC's first points of the season. Yes, it's only round 2, but they're the only team not to score last time out, and they'll be looking to want to amend that result as we now exit out of the final corner and down the main straight into turn 1 we go. And still no one being close enough. It will be a possession at this stage of the Grand Prix as drivers focus up into a rhythm, and they see themselves now really starting to just try and apply the pressure onto the car in front. Is very difficult to do at times, especially around a circuit like Hungary, known as Monaco, without the walls, so it makes it even harder to overtake with this dirty air and very little slipstream we have on this year's title. But still trying everything they possibly can to do so. Now into the right of turn 9 with Luca Bonacossa as he tries to hunt down Zettany in front to keep himself in front of Rene Clean. The gap, the train has somewhat been split in half at this current moment, with, as you can see, Christoph there in 13th place, just about a second behind Carl Vergees, who lies in 12th currently. So we're on lap 6 of 35 now, and heading down that main straight once more. Are we going to see a move made by Marcel Pabst up the front of the field? No, we are not. I think there's going to be a switch made by the 2 AMS drivers. They head down into turn 1. Yes, there was. Axel just getting past Christoph. Marcel Pabst still staying just behind Manuel Biancola. Of course, he will want to get in front of that Thomas Enger Aston Martin, as he will be looking to try and take away some valuable points and carry on that championship advantage that TF10 do have, and also just make Manuel Biancola's tyres start to work in that dirty air like they're having to do for Marcel Pabst at the moment. So they really have to start to struggle when the car slides about underneath you, and if he can get Biancola to do that, he certainly could put himself in a very good position a little bit later on in this race. A little bit of a slide there from Marcel Pabst. So we're heading into the penultimate corner and into the final sector now, As we see actually with that swap, AMS have dropped now 1.8 seconds behind. And something's happened to Christoph Godor as he's dropped down not only behind James Watts, but also be the Pip. And the Pip is now up into 60th for Godor. And for PR, their race goes from bad, to worse. Of course, Godor wasn't able to get into qualifying in time to set a lap. So he started at the back of the field. And currently down in 17th place, and his teammate out of the race for PR. It's been a very disappointing evening indeed. And there you saw a move there from the Pip on James Watts. A nice old move with the DRS as he sees himself up into 15th place now on a recovery drive from the incident on lap 1. So as we now head through the turn 5, as Rene Clean is the first driver now to set a 3-second time penalty. Picked up at the chicane, a very big hotspot to do so. Same with out of turn 4 and also here at turn 11. Very easy just to run that little bit wide over the track limits and pick up a 3-second time penalty. And for Rene Clean, he is the first one to do so, but they should certainly run wild here as there's an incident for James Watts in the background. Unfortunately for the V-Carb, has he missed any of his front wing? No, it was just a slight moment for him on the exit of turn 11, which is very easily done. But let's go back up to Marcel Paps as he tries to hunt down Manuel Biancolo. Unfortunately for the Aston Martin, for the Mercedes, the Aston Martin stays ahead. Same with Biedzinski as well, as he's starting to put a gap over Lucas Bays, and that gap could go up to a second by the time we finish off the next couple of laps. And that would put Linus Kramer in 5th place, in a very good position indeed. He potentially see himself up into that top 4, but a lot stronger race here this evening from Thomas Enger. A better qualifying indeed from Thomas Enger. Sim, of course, Lucas Baysner did get that pole position, and his teammate last week a little bit further down the order than they would have liked, and it was a big comeback drive for the Aston Martin team. So now heading up into the penultimate corner with Linus Kramer to see what he can do. No one into pit lane just yet from those medium tyres. So he sets in a lot of these drivers to be on for a 1 stop, but a 2 stop is certainly a viable option, as there actually comes Axel and James Watts into pit lane off those mediums, only doing 8 laps on them. And they've elected to come off them and into pit lane. So for Axel and James Watts, they're onto the hards. They're going to maybe try to take those to the end, or they're going to just go for the undercut and do that 2-stop strategy and try and make that work. But of course, if everybody else stays out, that will be a lot of traffic to carve through, not only in this first stint, but the second stint as well, as they now exit out onto the circuit in 16th and 17th, and Axel is 16 seconds behind Christoph Godor for that 15th place. So as we head down into turn 12, Linus Kramer once more still trying to look for a move on Chris Biedzinski. Is there any battles a little bit further back? There is one between Vergeese potentially and Diego Fiera, as Diego's actually dropped back behind Rene Clean. He was, or actually no, Gabrielli's got past Rene Clean. It's a big moment for Fiera, and he actually elects to come into pit lane. Those medium tyres certainly have hit the cliff for the Alpine. He's now the next driver into pits. Of course, we're going to see drivers in within the next few laps anyway. And with that, we're going to see how some of these undercuts do pay off. Of course, we're going to see where Axel comes out in relation to Diego Vieira, because, of course, he was just that little bit further back. So let's quickly go on board with the Ferrari. They're going to be side by side, actually, heading down into the first corner. Of course, Diego's got to get those tyres up to temperature. Axel does not. So they head down into the penultimate, into turn 2. And Axel isn't able to get that move done, but a big undercut really working into the hands there of AMS, as Axel will now be on the back of the queue he was once chasing to get his claws back into, and he has done that now. So to quickly run you through last week's results, it was that 1-2 from TF10, followed by Lucas Basner in third. He seems to like so far this season following the two TF10 boys, does Basner, as he currently lies fourth behind both Beardzinski and Pabst. Then we had Travis, followed by Linus Kramer in fifth. He's looking for another fifth place finish actually here this evening. And then it was Scott Holmes, Spezzi, Carl Vergees, Rene Clean, Jonas Jacquin, Smith, Araxi, and Casper were your points scorers for the evening. Of course, top 14 score points, 30 for the winner, all the way down to 1 for 14th. So currently, Axel occupying that 1 point position as Bila Pip now comes into pit lane, as well as Linus Kramer is actually, speaking about him looking for another fifth place, has actually lost that DRS, crucially, to Lucas Basner. I'll need a monstrous next few corners to try and get back within it. Has Jay Kennedy behind him. A big saving grace here actually for Linus Kramer is that Jay Kennedy has also lost DRS to him. So he's in a bit of no man's land at the moment. He has found his way slowly closer and getting back into that DRS range of Lucas Basner. But that kick Sauber is starting to struggle on its tyres, and we'll be surprised if we see it into pit lane within the next 1 or 2 laps. This time around, potentially on the next one, to get rid of those mediums and go on to a set of the hards, and he's going to stay out for one more. But Jay Kennedy is going to be coming into pit lane, so one of the first of the front runners into the pits. Is Zettany following him? No, nobody else is following him into the pit lane from that top 10. So we now trundle down that pit lane. So, onto a set of the hard car tyres for Jay Kennedy. Where does he come out in relation, as of course, to Diego Vieira, who's now heading down the main straight. Set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix to boot, and he's actually, I think, going to be jumped here from Diego as they now exit out of the pit lane. Yes, Jay Kennedy out of the pit lane, actually not only being jumped by Diego, but also Axel as well, as we now exit out of turn 2 and down into the left-hander we go. And Axel is able to hold on to that 12th place. So for Jay Kennedy and also the likes of Kramer and Basler have to keep their wits about them and potentially be looking in their rearview mirrors, as these drivers could be in their way by the time they come out of pit lane. And that's a brilliant undercut once again from Axel, and also Diego this time around setting that fastest lap. And he did not, and he did get past Jay Kennedy, and that is a potential top 6 spot, a net top 6 spot, going the way of the Alpine driver. So as we look back at the front of the field, Pabst stays out. He's dropped a second behind Biancola. Linus Kramer is into pit lane, potentially seeing how strong that undercut was. He's now darted into the pits to see what he can do now, as we're on lap 13 of 35. So into pit lane comes Linus Kramer onto a set of the hards, you would think. Yes, it is. And then trundle back down the pit lane once more. Is Diego going to get the jump? Yes, he is going to get the jump. So is Jay Kennedy and Axel as well. That undercut seeming to work so well at the moment, as Jay Kennedy is actually trying to get past Axel and has got past Axel in all of this too, as they head down into turn 2 now. Axel, unfortunately, losing out on that place. Tyre delta, age delta, should I say, plays a huge part around this circuit and around any circuit on this game. And it has unfortunately come to haunt him. Is now heading up into the left-hander and through the right-hander at turn 5. Axel now is going to have his mirrors full of Kick Sauber from the GSR driver of Linus Kramer. So now through the penultimate corner, we do have some drivers into pit lane. Up at the front of the field, we have Marcel Paps, Lucas Baesner, Carl Vergeese as well, all making their way into the pits. Where does Paps and Baesner come out in relation to Diego, Jay Kennedy and co as they head down that main straight? And Diego and Kennedy have both jumped, not only Baesner but also Paps as well. And we could actually see free wide here, but Axel just backing out of it. But Linus Kramer now could potentially be going for that move onto Marcel Paps. And for the man that was running second place in this race, it's not looking good for him so far, as he now exits behind Jay Kennedy and Diego too, but crucially behind Jay, who was running sixth place by the time he came into pit lane, and now sees himself in front of the man that was running second. So for Marcel Paps and TF10, a lot of work to be done, but of course having that 2-lap tyre difference at the end of the race could be absolutely key, as Linus Kramer is slowly falling off the back of the Mercedes once more, and Marcel Paps needs a monstrous middle and final sector if he wants to get back within the DRS of Jay Kennedy. Chris Biedzinski now also into pit lane. Same with Amato as well. As we see, as Amato actually picks up 10 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. That could be crucial for his race, as Biedzinski now trundles back down the pit lane. Where does he come out in relation to that chasing pack behind? As you can see, there's Marcel Paps, and we'll surely see his teammate just darting on the left-hand side. No, Biedzinski is really far down this order, and he's going to come out behind Christoph in 9th place. So for TF10, really dire moments here, as Biedzinski's actually been jumped by Baesner as well, he was once in front of just a few laps ago. As they see to the inside, that's a lovely move from Biedzinski to get past Christoph up into 9th place. And the Mercedes, the Silver Arrows, finds that gap and makes his way through. He's back up into 9th, but a lot of work now left on his hands, with Baesner being that further 2 seconds in front of the Mercedes, but crucially out the DRS of Linus Kramer. So, as we exit out of turn 11 with Christoph, he and his teammate Axel both, of course, on those 6 and 5 lap hold tyres, respectively, going to be falling down the order. And Amato now picks up an extra 3-second time penalty to boot as well, so that makes his day go from bad to worse. Stettini is into the pit lane, the final medium runner to come into pits. As we head down that main straight once more, is Marcel Paps going to go for that move on Diego as they head into turn 1? No, he's just going to sit behind for now. Not going to be close enough to get a lunge to the inside into turn 2 either, as James Watts comes into pit lane and retires. He picks up 10 seconds. Unfortunately for him, that is a second retirement of the race, joining Liam Bowman, who of course retired on that opening lap. And for James Watts, he lasted 16 before he came into pits and retired. We're about to reach that halfway stage of the race. And for these drivers, they've done that first stint, except for Biancola, who is still out on the circuit, travelling on those hards. And we'll see when he comes into pit lane and where he comes out in relation to everybody else. So, still with Marcel Paps, he's looking to try find a way past Diego Ferreira. Oh, we're going to see the move happen now. DRS is open for the Mercedes as we go on board. Heading down into that first corner. He's using a bit of the battery. Is he going to dart it to the inside line? Yes, he is. Late on the brakes from Marcel Paps. Is he going to get that move done? He's going to have DRS on the exit of the corner. So it's the Alpine 2. But the superior traction of those younger tyres sees Marcel Paps through as further back. That is actually going to be Linus Kramer squabbling with Lucas Baesner over that 5th place. Able to keep that position is Linus as further back as well. Even further back than that was Bonacossa overtaking Axel, as he sees himself up into 8th place with Biedzinski now in 7th, trying to hunt down Lucas Baesner, and has hunted down Lucas Baesner. As you can see now, potentially going to go for that move to the inside line. Is he going to be able to pull it off? No, just going to sit behind. He looked for it. Give it that. That is a very difficult corner to overtake at, that 6 and 7 chicane. He looked for the lunge, but unfortunately was not able to pull it off. But he's showing his intent to Lucas Basin to show him that you cannot be comfortable at the moment, because I will make my move and I will get past you. So now, as we head out of the final corner, a little bit further up, well, these three of Kramer, Biedzinski and Baisner all going to be fighting down into that first corner. As you can see, the Tomasenko driver of Lucas Baisner going to dart to the right, darts to the left to give the dummy to the kick Sauber. He's going to have to drive off the corner as he will have DRS once again. You can see Kramer really having to defend that inside line. And he still is able to hold on to the position. And Baisner will be getting more and more infuriated behind and more frustrated behind the kick Sauber, because he knows he needs to get by or he's going to be overtaken by Chris Biedzinski within a matter of laps. Who's actually, Biedzinski, really applying that pressure as Baisner through that first sector drops off a little bit from the kick Sauber. It just seems that Mercedes through the corners is something to just marvel over and watch. It's so strong. It's an absolute monster. And when we head down the straights, maybe a little bit weaker compared to the rest. So heading through the penultimate corner we go. We're going to see who will come out on top in this squabble once more. Here comes Baisner once again on Linus Kramer. The kick Sauber defends the inside line once more. Is he going to be able to pull that move off? The kick Sauber goes a little bit deep, and that's invited the good old switcheroo for Lucas Baisner, but he's still going to be on the outside for turn 2. Is he going to try the exact same move, or is he swooping it around the outside? He's going for it to the right-hand side of the kick Sauber. Is he going to be able to get the move done on Kramer? As we head through turn 3 now, still side by side as we head up the hill. It'll be turn 4. Round the outside through here will be bold. It will be brave. And it will be beautiful, but there is some contact. Kramer holds the car, and for Lucas Baisner, spectacular move around the outside to move himself up into that 5th place. There was a little bit of contact, but I think that was tough, fair, and hard racing. And Lucas Baisner, he gave it his all. He was brave around that outside and saw himself up into 5th place. It's very rare you see a move at turn 4, and when you do, you always know it is going to be a spectacular one. So as Chris Biedzinski now has to find his way past Linus Kramer. While all this was going on, Marcel Paps was able to break the DRS of Diego Ferrer as he hunts down the race leaders. The race leader, should I say, of Biancolor, and also the leader of this train being Jay Kennedy. As here comes Lucas Baisner now on Diego Ferrer. Is he going to get that move done to the inside line? Yes, he is. Easy as you like. Of course, the Alpine didn't have any DRS. The Aston Martin did. And he sees himself up into 4th place now, trying to hunt down the TF10 driver of Marcel Paps. Is a little bit further back. Biedzinski is trying to do the exact same as what Baisner did only just a lap ago. Look at the momentum of that Mercedes. We said it was a marvel. It was a beast through the corners, and Kramer stood no chance against that. And Biedzinski sees himself now up into that 6th place. That was a beautiful move around the outside. Certainly, the Mercedes is a lot stronger through the corners as he's now all over the back of Diego. He's going to look to the inside once again into 6 and 7. Is he going to be able to pull this one off on the brakes? Yes, he is. 2 spectacular moves from the Mercedes, but a little slide out of 7 invites Diego back to the inside. He's ghosting a little bit. There's a little bit of lag between the pair, and Biedzinski is able to take it right back from him. So from Biedzinski, from nearly utter dismay to sheer delight once more, but he's 2 seconds behind Lucas Baisner. As there you can see, Linus Kramer now going for the move on Diego into turn 12, but the Alpine is able to hold firm, and the kick Sauber will just have to sit behind and now wait for the DRS opportunity down the main straight, but Diego does have it as well. René, Bila Pip is now into pit lane once more, only doing 9 laps on those hard compounded tires. You can see Biancollo's done 12, as Axel's fallen quite a way down the order. Is that just from DRS alone? I think it might have been. Christoph's been let on the loose, and so has Zettany as well. Could potentially go for a move on the other AMS Ferrari, and is unable to get the move done. So with Ttc, as he now has to hunt down a 3-second gap to Luca Bonacossa in front. He is on those fresher, hard compounded tyres, but it will still be a very tricky challenge indeed. Also be interested to see where BN Collar, right on cue, comes into pit lane, and where he can come out in all of this and how much progress he can make up the field as we're on lap 21 of 35, as he finally gets off those hard tyres, done 21 laps on them. Now into pit lane. Puts on a set of the mediums. I think he's going to drop down all the way to around about 14th place here is BN Collar, and that's going to be a very tough ask indeed with 14 laps left in this race. He's at the back of the queue, of course, on some fresh mediums, but he's still got to make his way up through that order as there's a little battle further in front. Bonacossa, Fiera, and also Kramer as well. And Bonacossa might have just got 2 for the price of 1, and yes, he has, up into 5th place for the BRC driver. Of course, the lone Haas this evening for BRC. It does not matter, though, as they see themselves scoring points here this evening. Surely, if he just gets this one to the line, and he's up in that top 5, this will be a brilliant result for them. They only just scraped through in the qualifiers. I think they were bottom of the qualifications of the teams that made it through, but they still did. And here they are with Bonacossa here in Hungary, having a delightful evening, being best of the rest. Unless Jake Kennedy is the best of the rest really for IRT, but the best in that top 5. And for BRC, this is really going to be a nice result for them. As actually we see Diego Ferrer, Axel, and Jay Kennedy into pit lane. So the 2-stop is coming into play. I think they would be able to make it to the end on those 1-stop hards. Of course, Marcel Paps and Basner certainly will be able to make it in a 1-stop. But Jay Kennedy into the pits, and that's allowed Biancola up into 9th place on those mediums. Of course, doing that 1-stop as he's been able to get past not 1 but 2 of the McLarens for Verghese and Amato. And he sees himself now up into that 8th place, trying to hunt down Rene Clean, who is in 7th place and is 4.6 seconds behind the closest car of Ttc in front. So for Biancola, if everybody does that 2-stop, you surely think he is in prime position to take the race victory here this evening. As now he exits into turn 12, a very late lunge to the inside line. There could have been some contact there. Still both drivers holding off room perfectly. Brilliant defence, well, brilliant awareness, should I say, not defence, from Rene Clean, as he saw the Aston Martin dive to the inside at the last minute. It was an extremely late lunge as well. And he saw himself up into 7th place to Biancola, and Rene Clean sees himself still in this race, as we still have that battle going on between the Alpine Haas and the Kick Sauber. And instead of it being Diego, it is Ttc is there. Linus Kramer looking for a move, trying to lurch under braking to see if he can find anything from Luca Bonacossa and try force him offline. As we now head up into the left-hander of turn 4. Ttc, of course, having 2 lap younger tyres than Linus Kramer and Luca Bonacossa really does give him a good upper hand on this. As we head into that turn 6 and 7 chicane. Will he be able to get that move done? As you saw in the background, there's Biancola, 3.4 seconds behind now this trio of cars. And he's going to be hunting them down with sheer intent. You can see how much he's bringing that gap down through the corners. It's now 3.1. It's going to be under 2 seconds, under 3 seconds already, sorry. He is really flying on those mediums as Jay Kennedy sees himself up past Christophe Godot and into 11th place as well. Out of the front of the field, Marcel Paps could be coming under some pressure from Lucas Basner, as he actually is going to be under some pressure, as there's Basner to the inside of Paps. He's going to look for the lunge to the inside line. He's going to be able to get the move done. There's some contact made between the pair. Still with the DRS is Basner. Paps will still be fighting this one, though. He will want to keep his race lead. A little lock up from the Mercedes. As you see, Basner still trying to hold it. Gets forced onto the grass and into turn 3. And he was just able to stay in front of Chris Bierdzinski. But Marcel Paps really getting his elbows out against Lucas Basner. And the Aston Martin sees himself still in second place, but a valiant effort to try and get that position. Unfortunately, Pabst was strong to the defence of that one and was determined to keep his position. So with Marcel Pabst, as he's heading into the penultimate corner, we're about to start 10 laps to go when we cross that start-finish line. And are we going to see Basner potentially try another move, or is Chris Biedzinski going to go for another move either as we head down into turn 1? It stays Linus Stone is actually Basner nearly into the back of Marcel Pabst. That would have been really bad with the overspeed, as being Collar is actually making some moves. He's been able to get past Linus Kramer. Luca Bonacos has been overtaken by Zettany, as we could see both the Alpine and the Haas come under pressure from being Collar behind, who's really been able to close that gap down between the cars himself and the cars in front. Only 2 laps ago he was about 3 seconds behind. He's now within 3/10 of Bonacossa. As heading through turn 4, Biancola will be a little bit slowed down through this middle part of the lap, but he's really been able to catch back up to this front train, should I say, of the race. Now 4.1 between Zettany and Biedzinski, and that gap seems to be coming down slightly. So for Biancola, it wouldn't surprise me if he does get to the back of the top 3 within a sheer matter of moments. There's a yellow flag there. That's for Axel, who's unfortunately seen himself go round at turn 4. Has he got any front wing damage? We'll check now coming through the 6 and 7 chicane. No, he does not. And Diego Vieira does get another penalty. I'll show you the penalties in a moment's time. As Marcel Pabst and Lucas Basder once again going to be squabbling as Biancola able to get past Bonacossa through the final corner. As here comes Lucas Basder once more, and Marcel Pabst. This time the Aston Martin gets his elbows out against the Mercedes, and for Thomas Engasim, he might just be able to get that move done as he defends that inside line quite aggressively. Pabst tries moving it back to the outside line, isn't able to do so, and it is going to be Marcel Pabst who has to relinquish that position, you would think, just yet. There's a little slide there side by side now. Up at turn 4, we saw Basder do this not too long ago. To the outside line goes Pabst, and he just backs out of the move, thinks better of it, and is just focusing on keeping his car in one piece. But you can see just how much better of a line he can take through turn 5. Late on the brakes into 6 and 7, and side by side now. Basler shown over the curb, more contact between the pair, and Marcel Pabst just coming out on top once more. But these two are really getting their elbows out. This is a titanic scrap between the top two heavyweights going swing for swing, round for round. This is inviting Zettany into play, and also Biedzinski as well is going to go for the move now down into turn 12 and just slots back into Q. But this really is started to kick off. This is not only inviting Zettany, should I say, it's also inviting Biancola on those medium compounded tyres, as the other Thomas Engasim driver will see himself drive surely up to the back of this trio of cars at a rate of knots as we head down into turn 1 once more. Based seeming a little bit too far back this time around. And late on the brakes he goes. Marcel Pabst staying in that first place for now. Really, these guys are squabbling tooth and nail for this position. It's Christoph Godor back into pit lane as well. But what is going to be the best way to go? Was it that hard medium, the alternate strategy? Or is it going to be that medium hard? The direct strategy, the strategy everyone has been using in that top 4. Of course, Biancola on that alternate one. Is he the one that proves these guys wrong? So for Lucas Basner as he heads down into turn 12, we're about to start lap 29 of 35. So 7 laps to go in this race. Lucas Basner switches on that DRS. Zettany now with it nearly within DRS range of Chris Biedzinski, looking to try and take this race victory and for PC try and take a podium, of course. Last time out, it was TF10 1-2 and Thomas Enger Sim of Lucas Baesner in third. This time around, it is seeing 2 TF10s on the podium, but this time Baesner in second. So that surely means next week in Saudi Arabia, Baesner will win the race if he's attending, and he'll go that one step better. But as Baesner heads his way through turn 4, of course, still plenty of laps left in this one. And still plenty of opportunities to go for that move, as Biancola is now within DRS range of Zetany, who's slowly creeping into that DRS range of Chris Biedzinski. That gap now 1.1. It's really starting to be a 5-car battle for this race victory. Now heading out of the final corner, DRS open once more for Lucas Baesner. As you can see just behind him, Chris Biedzinski actually tucks out of the slipstream. That could be to help with the engine. Of course, engine power so crucial on this game. Heading down into the right-hander of 6 and 7 then, with Lucas Baesner. Going to be 5 laps to go once we cross that start-finish line. And now look at that, Zetany and Manuel Biancola are both within that DRS range. This is now going to be some very interesting times in this race. Of course, they want to make their way past Chris Biedzinski as quickly as possible. With Biedzinski being in the DRS, it makes things 10 times harder. As Christoph Godor picks up a 3-second time penalty. Baesner still trying to get close to Paps, not able to get that move done. But for Zetany and Biancola, the drivers they've overtaken have been on much worse tyres than them. And also, they've been squabbling amongst themselves and not having that DRS, whereas these 3 in front of them all have DRS and are around about the same on tyre wear and tyre grip. Those mediums will be about the same as a 15-lap-old hard at this stage, or potentially just a few laps younger, but still around about that same somewhat pace window. It's, of course, the hard a lot more durable than the medium. The medium just, of course, that good average between pace and durability. But when they get too worn, they do become as slow as the hard compounded tyres at this stage. So into the penultimate corner to start. 4 laps to go here this evening. DRS will be enabled once more for Baesner, Biedzinski, Zetany and Biancola. Is anybody going to be able to make any late race moves in this one? As further back, actually, Jay Kennedy, who tried that 2-stop, it's not seemed like it's worked for him, is trying to break into that top 10. He should have stayed out on those hards he was on. And unfortunately for IRT, a mistake has been made on the strategic front as Carl Vergeese is able to get past Luca Bonacossa as well. As there's Bila Pip up into 11th, trying to get past Rene Clean. Nicely done from him as there's still that squabble further up between Vergeese and Bonacossa. There's also Ferreira as well, squabbling in this one. Driver having a little bit of lag issues is Ferreira, and unfortunately, it's made it a little bit unraceable for some of these drivers. You can see once again lagging, heading up into turn 4. He's all over the road, and that's really off-put Luca Bonacossa as he remains... he drops down to 9th. He actually gave room to the Alpine, not knowing that the Alpine was ghosting and lagging straight through him, now allowing Jay Kennedy to be all over the back of him now. So, through the penultimate corner, we do go now with Luca Bonacossa. As further up the field, there could potentially be some moves made in a moment. Jay Kennedy's going to be making that move on Bonacossa. I think we're all good out in front for now. I think Zettany's just going to be like a little bit too far back. Jay Kennedy going to potentially go for the move. There's Vieira on Carl for Geese. Jay Kennedy not going to be close enough. As actually, there's a bit of desync there for Marcel Pabst, who's dropped down the order and got a 3-second time penalty. Something's happened to Marcel Pabst as he is starting to lag all over the road. I don't know if that's a system fault or what, but unfortunately for Pabst, he is having screen freezes and disconnects galore. And for the race leader, it has just come down to a crashing end, unfortunately for him. And for Marcel Pabst and for TF10, what could have been 2 in a row for the team, and Marcel Pabst's first race win this season, he lags at the final hurdle and gets some screen freezes. What on earth has just happened to Marcel Pabst, who was comfortable in this race lead? Yes, he had Lucas Baser behind, but was keeping him at an arm's reach. And with 3 more tours of this circuit, I think his internet might have just gone kaput. As now we see Lucas Baser take that race lead, and Chris Biedzinski, all hope lies on his hands for TF10 now if they want to make it back-to-back race victories and to hold on to this championship lead. Heartbreak for Marcel Pabst, who had driven so well all race long. It's unfortunately come to an end, and he's going to finish probably a best of 6th unless he can break 3 seconds in the span of 2 laps from Linus Kramer. Or he might be able to get it removed a little bit further down the line. But as we're about to come to that final tour of the circuit, the final lap here this evening. And Lucas Baser leads the way. Christophe Godot has come into pit lane once more, and he'll be a lap down as we start the final lap of this race. Heading down into the first corner we go. Is Biedzinski going to look for it? He tried displacing Lucas Baser, maybe forcing him into a defensive move he didn't need to do, but Baser was the wiser to it. And I don't think Biedzinski is going to have another go at it. And for Manuel Biancola as well, he tried his best on this strategy. Well, unfortunately, those medium sides have given away from him too soon. As a yellow flag somewhere on the road. That's a Red Bull. That's Christophe Godot just letting everyone through. But I don't think there's going to be another opportunity for many of these drivers for Zettany. He can make it the 3rd different team on the podium this season. Of course, it's only been TF10 and Thomas Enger in that first race. And here in race 2, we might see PC join the fray. Who, of course, were in that rerun with Diego, holding on their hopes, and that would be a brilliant underdog story for them to get the podium. But capitalising on their main championship rivals' dismay will be Thomas Enger Sim and Lucas Baser. He got 3rd place last time out. He qualified on pole. This time around, he qualified in 4th, and he's going to take the race victory with a superb drive. He needed to be clinical, and he has been as he crosses the line to win the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lucas Baser capitalises on the Marcel Pabst issues, and he finishes with he takes home the race victory. What a drive from Lucas Baser. The Aston Martin man for Thomas Enger comes out on top, with Biedzinski in 2nd and Zettany in 3rd. That'll be a delightful podium for PEC. What a result that will be then for Thomas Enger Sim, as they now see themselves surely jump TF10 in the team standings. as Marcel Paps actually finished 7th overall with that 3-second time penalty, but I think he'll be able to get that one removed as we now cross the line. There we go. But for Thomas Engersim and Lucas Baesner, they're back on top. This is why they got automatically qualified. Yes, he had to pick up the pieces, but he was there when he needed to. And as they say, you create your own luck in racing. Driver of the day in the game was Zettany, a brilliant drive from him from quite a way down the order. Jay Kennedy with the most overtakes. Fast as that was a Meto. And, of course, Lucas Baesner with the race win. And Zettany was from 8th on the grid to that race victory. But it was Lucas Baesner who took that race victory. Chris Biedzinski in 2nd, still picking up some valuable points for TF10 come the end of the season. PC with Zettany in 3rd. They will be super stoked and super happy with that one. That is a true underdog story from just about breaking into qualifiers to finishing off in 3rd place. That is exactly how they would want to keep to start their season. And now they want to keep it running for the majority of it. Manuel Biancola is in 4th place. Unfortunately, with that strategy, he tried his best but wasn't able to capitalise on it. Linus Kramer 5th. 6th, Jay Kennedy. 7th, Marcel Paps. B. Pip in 8th. 9th is Christoph. Vergees rounds out your top 10. Luca Bidacossa. Fiera. Clean. And then Amato rounds out your points. And it's Christoph Godor. It was Axel. Then there was also Jamie Watts and Liam Bowman. Your 3 DNFs of this evening. But that is surely going to be all for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll quickly run you through your calendar once more before we head off this evening. We head to Saudi Arabia next week, to make sure to tune in then, 8 p.m. UK time, back here on the Twitch. Hopefully we won't have a lobby restart this time around. Codes up for round 4 will be the week after. Then we'll make a trip to Singapore before a break week, a transfer week for the drivers to be swapped in and out for their teams. Then we head to Spain for round 6, Silverstone forwards and Silverstone backwards for round 7 and 8, China for round 9, Canada is round 10 before another transfer week, before we then head to Brazil, Japan, Vegas, Monza and Abu Dhabi on the 5th of December to round off the season. And that is going to be your calendar. Will TF10 and Thomas Engersim be able to carry on this streak, or will PC or others be able to find their way further up the podium or onto the podium for the first time this season? Congratulations to Thomas Enger for that race victory, and TF10 for that 2nd, and also PC. I'm very delighted for them after their trials and tribulations in qualifying to be able in qualifying night to be able to pick up a podium. So that is a very heartwarming story for this evening. But thank you all very much for watching. I have been Max Ring, and we shall see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you in Saudi Arabia for what should be a frantic Arabian night. Thank you, and goodbye.